Muscles are marvelous, but brains are better. I'm here. I'm Chris Spivey. We're talking about Silverhawks. Eddie,
I'm Eddy Webb.
what's your name?
I'm here too. I'm Eddy Webb.
Oh, I love it. I love throwing Eddie off by doing things differently. He gets that look. What are you doing? Do I jump in now? Do I jump in later?
What's happening? I don't even know anymore. Are these even my pants?
So, in case people are curious, when we were going through the list, I chose for us to watch Silverhawks because I watched it way back when I was a kid. I did not remember it. And I'm not going to say if I liked it or didn't like it, but I do like singing Silverhawks ad nauseum.
So a bit like Chris was with GoBots, I was a big fan of Silverhawks when I was a kid. It was... I mean, I was still mainly a Transformers guy. I mean, that was like my number one fandom at the time. But like, I really enjoyed Silverhawks. I thought the idea of cops and robbers, but in space, was cool. I have vivid memories of going to a Silverhawks on Ice event, although I could find no evidence online that this actually existed. So I'm pretty sure that it did. But maybe the fact that there's no record of it ever existing is perhaps tells you the quality of said show. But yeah, I thought Silverhawks were cool. I never had the toys though. Never had any toys.
Well, neither did I. And now that we've done this, I went back and I looked at some of the toys, and I've got to say I am not moved by how they looked. Maybe it could be me, and I've never. All right, so up front, I have never been a big toy collector. That has never been my thing.
Right. No, I'm not a ton of either. I've a few toys. That's about it.
Much how I'm not like a model person because I don't think I have the patience to paint the model because I don't have that inclination in me. I get frustrated, then I throw it at the wall, then I waste all that money in my models all over the floor pieces.
Right. Exactly.
But I am a TV person. And so I watched some Silverhawks growing up. I watched Thundercats. I watched most of the cartoons. And all right, I'm of multiple minds about this because it is a cop-based cartoon aimed at kids.
Right.
Which puts me in a weird headspace for it. But it's not like Mask. It's a little different. And I think part of the reason that it works to some extent is they are constantly fighting the mob, a very specific organization for these. We're calling them cops, but they're essentially like special agents versus the mafia, more FBI based.
It is. I mean, it would be correct but reductive to say is cops in space. It's more accurate to say it is Elliot Ness in space. Right. It is very specifically the 1920s Elliot Ness versus a Chicago mob, but in space with superheroes. That's actually what it's going for in a lot of ways. And so, like the spaceships look like 20s roadsters. The main character's offices looks like an office out of a noir novel because for reasons that even characters remark on. And
Stargazer sounds like a noir protagonist.
Right, exactly. And about as boring as that would be. So like it's, but like, if it's mob movies in space, right? And so it's like, hey, yeah, see, it's that kind of over the top cartoonish mob. And so therefore the characters, and you're right, they're not police, they're a special task force devoted to dealing with this specific mob of characters.
And now I don't remember anything about Silverhawks other than these 4 episodes that we watched, so I can't speak to if it is more cop focused on those other episodes that we didn't watch. Because when I went through, I did what we always do. I choose the origin episode so we can have a foundation for it. Then I went best of, but then I added a twist to it because this is a white ass cartoon from top to fucking bottom for the Silverhawks. Yes. And I didn't want that. I said, I knew there was another character that shows up. Oh, I got some issues with that, but still.
Hot Wings, yeah.
I knew that there was another one, and so I looked for best episodes that had Hot Wing in it, so we could talk about some of the stuff there.
Right. I This is one of the few cartoons that I have fond memories of that I have not actually rewatched, and so we talked about this, I waited, and then I actually have watched several episodes beyond the episodes that we have watched here, so I have slightly more wide school knowledge, or at least the early run of this cartoon. Um, I kind of ran out of steam because, much like many cartoons of the era, it's just kind of the same thing over and over again after a point.
Yeah. And
But
a
they
lot of
never they
people
never
could say that's a lot
really.
about.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sir, go ahead.
I would say like the police elements, as far as I can tell, never really goes either direction, right? It's like the I forget the boss's name, but he reports to somebody. Um,
Stargazer.
Stargazer reports to somebody, which would seem to be the actual police squad, and so he has jurisdictional arguments. But one thing that is talked about in other episodes, we only have a throwaway line here, is that there is a light speed or light year limit, which is meant to be kind of the 3 mile limit equivalence, which is that beyond a certain level of intergalactic space, that their jurisdiction stops. And so the Silverhawks have a kind of, if you don't get caught, we will support any actions you take outside the light year limit, but also don't get caught. So they're not really cops. The FBI is probably the closest equivalent, which again plays into the Untouchables vibe they're going for here.
Yeah, which anyone that knows me knows I love a good noir. So I have a lot of positive feelings, at least for the aesthetics here. And even
Yes,
rewatching it today, a lot of the animation can still hold up, which
sure.
isn't something I've said about anything else that we've watched.
Yeah, I mean, and it's made by your boys Rankin and Bass.
I love Rankin and Bass.
Yeah,
So fucking much because Eddie's heard me talk about it at least once a month. How we're eventually going to cover The Hobbit from the
right.
'70s and those animated movies by my 2 out of 3 by my crew of Rankin and Bass that I
Mhm.
love. I love Fire and Ice, everything they've done, and it's also one of the reasons that for one of the mob, Hardwire, I love Hardwire because Hardwire looks like a cross of Gollum and Orc and a Dwarf that Rankin and
Yep,
Bass did, all
yep,
melded into one character.
right. And I think it's another reason why I groove on Silverhawks is that, let's be super clear, it is in no way, shape, or form vaguely resembling hard sci-fi, right? People just hang out in space all the goddamn time.
What?
But it's not. It's science fantasy, right? Magic is a thing. It's initially a slightly implicit thing. It becomes extremely explicit later, thanks to Hot Wings, um, and for good and bad reasons. But it's a science fantasy, so it's much more Star Wars, right, in that regard. And Rankin and Bass, they do fantastic fantasy. Thundercats is also a fantasy, and they do really fantastic fantasy stuff.
Now,
So it works
are
well.
you trying to different? Well, let me take that back. Are you trying to differentiate Star Wars's science fantasy versus Star Trek science fantasy?
Yes, in the sense that uh, Star Trek science fantasy is more, the physics are largely made up, right? It's not trying to be hard science fiction, but it's also, at least the tropes and aesthetics tend towards it. Star Wars is much more, they're using lots of fantasy tropes that have been transplanted into a science fiction setting. There are wizards, there are sword fights, there are magicians, there are monsters. So
Eddie.
I'm not saying one is more fantastical than the other. I'm talking about the tropes, Chris. I can see you rubbing your hands together like you're gonna jump in, like you got me somehow. But if you let me take a goddamn minute to finish my thought, I will explain. I'm talking about fantasy tropes here are much more prevalent.
I'm gonna let most of it go, but I will say that Q is a goddamn space wizard with magic and leave it at that.
And he's the exception rather than the rule.
If there weren't like 20,000 Qs, so there are a whole bunch of exceptions, and dilithium crystals. What the? All right, different discussion. We're not having a Star Wars. We're eventually gonna do a Star Trek run. That's just Star Trek, and we're gonna get
Okay,
into it.
all right. Don't threaten me with a
I
good
will
time.
threaten you with a great time.
Yeah. Means I have to Deep Space Nine again. Oh no.
But it was so this is, I think, as you were saying, like the space-based sister series of Thundercats.
Right.
And a spoiler, if we ever talk about Thundercats, is I liked Silverhawks better than Thundercats because I've always liked sci-fi better than fantasy.
Yeah, same.
That's
Definitely same.
my shtick. But you'll notice even in the opening theme song, as we get into more of the show, is that Lion-O has like his sword that gives him sight beyond sight. And
Mhm.
here, Quicksilver inherits a bird that lets him see what he normally could not see. One would almost say that it would grant Quicksilver sight
Sight
beyond
beyond
sight.
sight. Yeah. There's certainly more than a smidge of recycling, right?
And as we're never going to talk about it, there was a third series based on this too in the same universe.
Really?
They were Tiger Sharks, is what it was called.
Really? Tiger Sharks is part of continuity? Wow.
Yes.
Oh my god.
And so Thundercats, wildly popular. I don't know why. Silverhawks, sort of okayly popular. Tiger Sharks, 8 of us know about it.
Right. I will say both Silverhawks and Tiger Sharks are getting comic books, but because they're tying into the more popular Thundercats comic book. So it's, yeah.
And people, if you've watched both Thundercats and Silverhawks back then, you'll know there's a lot of voice carryover too. I don't know most of the voice actors how Eddy would, but both Mum-Ra and Monstar were the same voice actor.
The Planet Killer. Yes.
Amongst other people. So it's weird though, because I know when we originally talked about what was that? Challenge of the GoBots, when they brought in Transformer voice actors, they switched the roles they're playing. So here, it seems, in my opinion, it was a bad call to have both the voice actor come back and be the villain for both pieces. They should have switched it up a little bit to add a more variety to it that might have kept the show revitalized.
Yeah. Earl Hammonds. Yeah, you're right. It's the same actor.
And their production people were overlapping and everything else between the two different productions.
Yeah, and oh, surprisingly, I thought Steelheart. I thought she was also in Thundercats. Apparently, I was wrong about that. Although amusingly, would you like to know where most of the voice cast of Silverhawks ended up going in much more recently? What cartoon they most recently worked
Uh,
on?
well, wait, don't tell me yet. Is it an American cartoon or is it something
Yes,
else?
American cartoon.
As I'm not as familiar with American cartoons, let's go Avatar.
Archer.
Yeah, I can see that. Archer ran for like 10
Because the whole
seasons.
time I was going, why do I recognize some of these voices? And I started looking him up, and like Peter Newman's an Archer, Maggie Wheeler's an Archer, Bob McFadden's an Archer, Larry Kenny's an Archer, and it's just like, or not an Archer, but Larry Kenny's an Archer, but like, yeah, a lot of these guys are in Archer. And it's just like, okay, now I see it.
All right. So originally, the animation was provided by a Japanese studio, Pacific Animation Corporation. So that's where they got the general vibe from and the feel for the anime.
Mhm.
I can't stress enough that I know it's somewhat dated, but I love the animation style that they've used here for the characters and the fact that the silverness of them shines through. And it's still really appealing to an adult, even if it was for a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're going to talk about the aesthetics a lot in this show because arguably that's the high point of the show. But I mean, you're right. There's a vibe and a look here that is so weird, but also extremely cohesive, right? Like everything cleaves to this aesthetic, and it does not deviate. It builds on and expands. It twists the aesthetic, but it always has that core, and so it looks very very cool. And individual frames of this show, like you just pause it or turn with the sound off, and there's like that just looks cool, right? And there's a lot of
Yeah.
it doesn't make damn bit of sense, but it looks really cool. And frankly, in a cartoon in 1986, that's probably all you needed.
My question for you that I'm gonna love that I'm starting these now with if we're gonna stay consistent. Uh Eddie, out of our Silverhawks here, which one is your favorite?
So when I was a kid, I hated bluegrass. Hated bluegrass with a passion. I do not know why. Because Bluegrass is probably my favorite character now.
Is it because Bluegrass couldn't fly or hover or glide or whatever the Silverhawks really do? Depends on
I
the
mean, I don't
episode.
know. I think it was because, like, honestly, I think it was because when I was growing up, the family that just owned me were very into country music, and so it's like he's getting Bluegrass the cowboy hat. I think it was probably as far as I thought, even though he has a mohawk and plays rock, right? And so it's like it's not at all his aesthetic of goes to his name and his hat, but everything about him is punker. And so I'm watching it, and it's just like this is a guy who in the future just loves all music from the 20th century and doesn't understand what genre means, and I kind of love that. And also, he has a guitar that shoots sonic notes at people, and that's awesome.
Okay, who is your favorite villain amongst the mob?
Uh, so like, part of me wants to say Mumbo Jumbo, because he's a giant metal minotaur dude, and I
Yeah,
like that. Um, but honestly, I hate to sound like broken record, but it probably would be Melodia, right? For similar reasons, you
because she
know.
shoots music from a guitar.
She's well from a keytar specifically. Also, she is like, what if the '80s were a person?
Eddie,
Yeah,
Eddie, Eddie. What's a guitar?
it's a guitar. It's a guitar made out of keys, obviously. Duh. It is a electronic keyboard that is also attached to a neck, so therefore you can actually press buttons on the neck as well as on the object, and therefore it plays music in a similar vibe of a guitar, but it's actually just a keyboard and it's been restructured to look like a guitar.
Oh,
How about
I
you?
love it. I think I've already said my favorite member of the mob is Hardware. Like
Yeah,
hands down, the gadget guy too. Go figure.
yeah.
Um, Bluegrass. I love Bluegrass as a kid. I love Bluegrass now. Much hasn't changed from that point of view. It was always weird to me though that all the other ones could sort of at least glide, and he couldn't. He could only pilot because he was the best pilot. So I assume that's
Right.
why they stripped him of wings. I think there was an in-story reason why he couldn't, but
Vaguely, yeah. Like his graphs didn't take, and that's something else that like much like last thing with the GoBots is this show occasionally just glides over really dark shit, right? Like the Silverhawks are all cyborgs, the
yeah.
whole partly metal, partly real. And we'll probably go into this more in specific episodes, but like they just gloss over really horrifying body horror shit, you know.
Oh yeah, we're not there yet. That's first episode,
But I
but
just bring it up because I think I think I vaguely recall that Bluegrass tried to get the wing graphs they didn't take for some reason.
I'm going to talk about that because it's the first episode. I want to talk about something else with it. So
Fair enough.
I'm
Fair
going to
enough.
pause on that. But Bluegrass by far my favorite. I've never liked Kid. I know they
Copper
put
Kid,
Kid
yeah.
in for the kids. I didn't like Kid as a kid. I don't like Kid as an adult. From the planet of the mimes, Eddie. There's a whole planet of mimes.
Would you like to know? I looked this up. According because but as a note, I don't think I've talked about this yet. A lot of the information I'm getting is a great website called beyondthevoiceactors.com, which is a really
Mhm.
fantastic resource to find who voice acted for video games, cartoons, even voiceovers in movies. So it's fantastic work to find out about voice actors and what the work they did. So I looked up the voice actor for Copper Kid, and you want to know what this website told me?
Doesn't exist.
Unknown. Nobody knows who voiced the Copper Kid. Or, what I choose to believe, no one wants to admit the voicing the Copper Kid.
Oh god. All right, there's some other random bits we could talk about in the backstory, but I think we're ready to move on to the episodes proper. Is there anything else you want to talk about from the toyetic standpoint? Because as I didn't own any Silverhawks, I don't really know a lot about the toy history
No,
or how well they functioned,
no. The
or even
honestly, even the toys I wasn't super into. The only one I kind of because I'll be honest, as much as I like the aesthetics, the Silverhawk side of the toys are kind of generic Space Warriors, right?
yeah.
They have cool moments, but like from a toy thing, it's like the Mirage is just spaceship with toys in it. I always wanted Monstar's octopus car thing,
Oh, that was cool.
but I had not looking it up. I have to assume a toy is going to be way more disappointing than it would be in my head, Right.
Eddie, if I were ever to write my Mythos space game, my Mythos space horror game, Monstar's armored space squid would be in it.
Right, totally. I mean, it's just like you have taken a Shoggoth or whatever and wrapped a car around it and made it your steed, and how fucking badass is that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Essentially, it would be a Stormbringer in space.
Yeah.
Anyway, season 1, episode 1, the origin story. Wow. Just like, wow. I can't say for anyone else, but we start up with a straight info dump for kids. Like, here's a 2-minute thing. We run through the entire course of what the Silverhawks are, everything, info dump. I'm questioning where the opening theme song is because there's so much backstory. And then we hit the theme song. And directly after that, we get a voiceover from Commander Stargazer making an emergency call to Earth that the powerful criminal Monstar has escaped from prison. At 1300 Galactic Imperial Standard Time, the Moon Star shone into the penal planet, giving a Sailor Moon transformation to Monstar, who becomes Monstar. And then he goes into space to find his giant space squid that's just hanging out, and the squid attacks him, and then he shines a light from his eye onto the squid, turning it into a giant space Shoggoth squid.
Yep.
Stargazer, with his best bogey accent, gives a rundown of the villains and requesting backup. On Earth, in 2839, a new team is formed from volunteers. And then they give us their brief bios in a very Guardians of the Galaxy thing with some skills. Then the multi-species Earth delegation inspects the Silverhawks, ensuring they're combat ready before they have a field test with a drone. What I love the most is that the multi-species council says if they're not ready, we're going to kill these motherfuckers right here and right now before they leave Earth.
Yes.
Hard cut to a pop quiz with the kid at the end. Into first episode.
Okay. This is a terrible, terrible pilot in so many ways. I'm going to start with the fact that they give you the info dump, which they then repeat immediately afterward in the intro song. And then Steelheart explains yet again a third time immediately after the song is over what the story is. It spends the first 7 minutes of the episode telling you the story 3 times.
Eddie, because they're telling us in 86, kids were dumb. They're telling us that we, Eddie, when we were watching this, we were dumb. That we
I
couldn't
was not that dumb.
understand from a theme song and a character telling us they need to have a person who we never get, it's not a narrator or anything, probably a studio executive reading down the premise of the show to make sure that we understand it, to then give us a theme song that kind of talks about our heroes, to then reinforce it again for us.
No, see, all you have to do is like, okay, there are a bunch of silver people who are fighting a guy who turns into a robot and rides a squid. Done. I'm in. You don't need to explain anything more to me. Just go. Just go.
He doesn't turn into a robot, Eddie. He Voltrons up. He gets power armor.
Right. But and again, his transformation is like super body horror. Like bits flip out and turn around. His body turns into actual metal. And it's just like, what is that? It's like the closest they can get to an actual body horror transformation within the kids' code that they had to work within. Also, I will say, Chris will note there's nowhere written down anywhere on the screen, but I can do Monstar transformation shit from memory. That's how much I was obsessed about this show.
Oh, it's
Moonstar
not the
of
sheet.
Limbo, give me the might, the muscle, the menace of Monstar.
Wow. Oh, all right. I'm trying to like gather my thoughts now after that very bad, not you, the very bad pilot. Your quoting of it is ridiculous and awesome, but I'm yet not surprised. It's kind of a thing. I it's interesting the fact that we start with a grizzled stargazer is our like first real introductory character to the series.
Mhm.
Because if you're aiming a show at kids, that seems a weird take to start with.
Right. And it sets up a conceit which the show does not follow through with, is that Stargazer is kind of the narrator of the show, which again, you're mentioning noir. It's like doing lots of voiceovers and trying to. There's a vibe here that the show is not going to follow through with, which is unfortunate because, like, honestly, having Stargazer being like, um, uh, the guy who tells you what's going on would be interesting. Weirdly, a later show does do that. I don't know if you remember Cops. They got rebranded as Cyber Cops. But Bulletproof Vests, which is basically this same concept but cyberpunk on Earth. Bulletproof Vest narrates each case much more kind of like, this is case number 31215, the case of the bullshit, and he narrates the whole show. And I thought that was going to happen here, but that's not what actually happens.
I've never seen that show. I think I saw a still of it once, but it sounds almost like they're doing what Dragnet used to do from the
Yes,
70s
it's
television
very much a
series.
Dragon homage. And Elliot Ness, super cool, black tough character. So like it's actually a weirdly diverse show, but also it is about straight up.
Cops.
It's straight up propaganda in a way that this is not. This dodges around, but that one's like, no, it's just cops are awesome and always support the good things. So it's like, not worth watching. But
Which is why I've never seen it, because the title alone makes me not want to watch it.
right. I've only primarily watched it because it's part of my interest in shitty 90s cyberpunk. But regards to this, Stargazer is just, he ends up evolving into the guy who gives the orders, and other characters beyond Quicksilver push against him, so that's mildly interesting. But Quicksilver never really butts heads with Stargazer, which is unfortunate.
Well, because Quicksilver is just the field leader that is very much, I don't even want to say Boy Scout's the right word for it, just bland.
Yeah,
Up from top to bottom, super bland.
he is bland character. Sadly, he's the least interesting character of the group.
There's okay. I mentioned this later in notes, but I'm going to talk about it now. From what we've seen of Monstar, how did Stargazer capture Monstar and put him in prison in the first place?
I'm gonna guess pure luck.
Like, I'm trying to think
Taxes.
of how, and
Taxes.
that is the most FBI 30 thing that could have possibly happened.
Moonstar of Limbo, filed my taxes. Oh no. Yes, man. What did I tell you? File my taxes correctly. I'm sorry, boss.
And we get the great scene though of like Monstar punching at the metal plating outside of his cell to get the Moonstar to come in so that he can transform.
Right.
And
So
it's it was a nice beat though, because he tries to wheel and deal with the guards to let him see it, and they go, "No, we saw what happens to the last people that did that." to then him getting the power, taking out the guards and escaping. Which it's important to note those guards, because the series does something that I love, is it establishes reoccurring characters. Like, these people work in the prison, that's their job. If we come back to this prison, we'll potentially encounter those same people again.
right. A bit like GoBots, is that it has a relatively small cast. The cast does grow. The mob gets more villains. The Silverhawks get more characters, so it does grow. But it grows a little. It's not just here's a new toy, right? And so yeah, they do try to bring characters back and build on them. Some characters maybe they shouldn't revisit as much, in my opinion. We'll get there, but you try that. My frustration with Monstar is I love the concepts. I love the idea of a villain who's just kind of out of control, and so everyone's a little scared of him. Not in a Megatron, you're more powerful way, but in a Galvatron, I'm not entirely sure you're sane or what you're going to do at any moment way. But my frustration is because you mentioned the Mom-Ra reference. I do not like Monstar's voice acting because it's constantly that kind of gravelly, growly sounds, which sounds a lot like Mum-Ra for one thing. But also he never deviates from that. And so it when he's saying relatively mundane things, it's still like, I'm going to murder you, but please file my taxes. And it's just like it gets exhausting. whereas the other characters have more range in their performance.
Yeah.
So like Monstar is very one note, and it's frustrating because he's ostensibly the lead villain, so you see a lot of him, and you just keep getting that one note performance. So especially right after GoBots, where Psycho showed a lot of depth and range as a performance, it's a bit frustrating.
To touch on the body horror piece, because that's where we're originally going, and we're going to talk about Silverhawks and their transformation, everything that we get to see. Eddie, what can you figure out what the accent of the scientist is that is cutting away their human parts to replace it with cybernetics? Because remember, these are volunteers. They were just straight up people that are becoming cyborgs with an accented scientist. Do you know this scientist accent? I'm trying to decide
Yes, European.
because because I'm part of me wants to say that from the direct they're going, I think it could be a bad German accent,
Right.
which then
I
has
mean,
other implications.
I I took it as um evil European scientist as the kind of generic vibe. But my brain's going the same way of like this has strong Project Paperclip vibes about it, of like
Hmm.
let's get these German scientists from Nazi Germany and have them work for us instead. So yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like especially if it's in the 20s, it would have been World War I. They would have gained German scientists over, but still,
Well, if it's really going noir, we're looking more like late 30s, probably through early 50s.
Okay, true.
And I don't think they caught Capone until the mid 30s, if memory serves.
Right. But still, even then, like it would have been the best case scenario would have been this is a German scientist fleeing Germany while the rise was Nazis rising in power, but that's not traditionally how America has handled its German scientists.
Yes. So potentially a Nazi scientist performing human experiments to make,
Volunteers.
yeah, they're volunteers. Whew. And the horror associated with that is then they give us like glimpses of all the metal pieces inside of them, coupled with the fact the empathic twins, both of their hearts fail, Eddie, and they replace their hearts with metal hearts.
Yep. And like uh when you first look at the Silverhawks, you think, oh, they're wearing a body outfit or whatever, and it's like they have like one arm and hand revealed and the face revealed. Like, no, that's like all that's left.
Yeah.
Some inner organs, but that's about it. They're like partly metal, partly real. It's like no, it's like 85% metal.
And we've already established like my feelings about doing that with Cyborg from DC Comics. Like I have
Right.
very strong feelings about that. But this is body horror on the level of RoboCop. But RoboCop was someone they did it to save their life to then force them into service.
Right.
Here, they at least volunteered to be forced into service.
Right. And so it's like if you are like either of us where you play a lot of cyberpunk games, it's like, why are they not cyber psycho? You know, they're extremely well adjusted for having so much of their body replaced with metal.
Yeah.
But also every human character that we see has some kind of cybernetics. So it could be by 2800 or whatever that cybernetics are just extremely normalized, right? And so them having a lot of their body replaced is the equivalent to just having high quality training. So I mean, like it raises some interesting questions that the show, again, like we talk about a lot of these shows, is no way, shape, or form interested in answering. But it does have a different status quo that puts different perspective on this than you would have usually. Because then RoboCop is about a company trying to exploit a person who's about to die in order to benefit their own bottom line. This is definitely not a show that's doing something like that. It's much more show of like cybernetics are cool, so everyone has them.
So that's I know they say it's so that humans can travel that far into space, which I'm going to have some questions about shortly. Anyway,
Oh
though,
god,
but
yes.
and if we're looking at it now, though, all of them have cybernetics. All of our protagonists essentially have cybernetics. But I want to now that we're talking through it, both the twins' hearts have replaced.
Mhm.
Um, Bluegrass doesn't have functioning wings. The kid only speaks in beeps. And I
except
think the
for occasionally the occasional few words. But yeah,
and the chief equivalent has like a cybernetic eye. So all of them seem to have like something that they can't. How do I want to phrase it? Like the twins, the lack of the hearts for the twins is interesting since they're empathic characters. But the fact that Bluegrass doesn't have wings, so he's not like a fully functional Silverhawk like the rest of them. The kid's not fully vocalizing everything. The chief seems to have some sort of extra optical thing implanted. But Quicksilver, the most bland one of them, seems to be their perfect human specimen.
right.
They're
And
they're Ubermensch, if you would, Eddie.
let's say all their hair is metal, but you kind of expect it to be blonde, right?
Yeah. I was wondering how I was gonna get there, but yeah, he's their Ubermensch, Eddie.
Right. Um, I will say, talking about the twins real quick, I do like the twist that Steel Hearts, the sister, is the tough one, and Steel Will, the guy who's literally dressed like a football player, is actually the scientist.
Yeah.
It's an interesting twist because like it's coded for Steel Will is going to be the big tough guy, and as you know, that's Steel Heart. And Steel Will's like, I invented this cool thing. And it's like, why do you wear a football helmet? I don't know. It looks cool. And I kind of love. It's like a geek who's also a sport nut, and it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. Actually, that's interesting. But it
Yeah.
just shows you every single Silverhawk, except for Quicksilver, is interesting and flawed, and Quicksilver is dull and perfect, and again raises very important, uncomfortable questions.
All leading back to our Nazi scientist.
Right.
That's it really
Yep.
from here for the first episode. I could keep going, but I think we've beaten that horse
Do you want to
quite
talk
a
about the
bit.
quiz now? Because it's an ongoing thing.
Okay. It's I do. I love this quiz. I love it better than I like all the Yojo moments because it's like science
Yes.
based and it's engaging kids in a different way to teach you something. Because
Yes.
all the cartoons back then had to. And I'm willing to bet, Eddie, the science here is more accurate than all the James Bond science we saw.
It is accurate to 1985 certainly because there's so I watched more of these episodes. I watched more of these quizzes. Um, one of the quizzes has Pluto's ninth planet, for example. So obviously that's been undone and redone a few times. And there's a couple other things where it's like, yeah, we've since learned that's not true, but at the time it was probably true. I will say one thing that I thought was going to be a recurring thing, which was that it's like oh, this is the thing where the kid always gets every answer right, and it's like, oh, you're gonna be that annoying asshole in school that gets every answer right. But jumping ahead, spoilers, he does get a question wrong in one of the later episodes, actually. And on the one hand, like there's this weird subplot of like, is the kid ever gonna fly this ship? He's training to fly the ship. And it's like, my God, it's been 50 episodes. Let this fucker fly the ship. How long do you have to train him? You know? But it's not. It's a form to do space to learn about space. And so Rankin and Bass said, okay, we have to put in, we talked about this before, a certain number of minutes of educational content. So we're going to literally do that. We're going to do lots of space information. And so I'm with you. Like, if this has to be here, it is the best possible version of that. It's like we're going to teach you actual facts in a mildly entertaining way that shows off at least a character that you could buy a toy for. It just happens to be the Copper Kid, but whatever. He's a kid, so it makes sense we're teaching the kid. It's like, could we see Bluegrass? No, we're gonna hear him. Okay, all right, fine. But it's like it also it's visually interesting because yes, they have 5 shots of the fake mirage coming up and going down, and they cycle through different shots of the kid thinking and the kid giving a thumbs up or whatever. Like when you see a lot of them, you can see the same shots being put together, but like for what it's doing, it's great. It's not moral. It's not hitting you over the head with a very specific slice of American morality. It is just here's science facts, kids. Learn some science shit. And I certainly learned at least some of my space knowledge from this show. So
That's awesome. And that's what space should do.
yes. All right, now we can move on.
Hot Wing hits limbo. We open on a mobster in a sweet, sweet, sweet ride, faking a distress signal. Then Quicksilver and Kelly Hawk hit to the space as Stargazer begs for more Silverhawks from the man. Then each Silverhawk is sent singularly or in a very small squad to be captured. Earth is preparing to send him their next reinforcement, Hot Wing, a former magician. Stargazer sends out Slybird to find out what's going on, and we get some quips from Bluegrass and the twins, while Monstar gloats. Hot Wing, the new squadron leader, reports for duty. Magicians run in the family and infiltrates Monstar's fortress with the help of Zeke the Beak and Seymour the cab driver. You know what I mean? We get a display of his magic, telekinesis, and he then rescues the other Silverhawks with more magic. We get an epic battle, better than the Silverhawks and the mob who race to stop Monstar from becoming Monstar. Hotwing uses his magic to thwart the villain, while the others hotwire the vehicles to flee. And Hotwing saves the day by using his magic to close the garage door.
So, yeah.
I'm gonna let you start.
Clearly, the Silverhawks will accept anybody who will volunteer. It's like, did you work in the military? No. Police? No. Do you have any kind of experience in kind of fighting crime? Nope, but my dad's a magician. Sure.
So
Cybernetics.
I had that too. And as I was watching it, though, when he reports to duty to Stargazer, he specifically says he was a squadron leader.
Right.
And the magicians run in my family. So that infers he is military. But the fact that they introduce him as a magician and then they add that in.
Well, and spoilers for next episodes, the magician thing is the only thing that gets referenced from this point on, right? So, like, you would think that it's you're a squadron leader and you have a weird quirk of liking magic. That's interesting. No, like, your whole shtick is you're a magician and also called Hot Wing. How does that tie together? It doesn't. And also, your magic is, like, worse than DC level of I'm just make shit up magic. Like, you don't even say shit backwards. It's just I just do a thing and it happens. There's no rules as magic whatsoever.
Oh, Eddie, I got so many problems, but at the same time, they at least brought in a black character in an 80s cartoon who becomes, from these 3 episodes I picked, a permanent fixture of the team is important.
Yes, it does.
I don't know between episode 21 and 52 how much that's truly accurate.
He's, as far as I can tell, he's more or less from the team. I was not a big fan of Hot Wing at the time, and I was like, I want to re-examine that because I don't like what that says about me. But it turns out, no, it's just because he's really fucking annoying. The voice acting also is terrible for Hot Wing, sadly. And this episode's pretty good, but it gets way worse after this.
So there's a whole soapbox they get out, but the fact you got a black guy who's a magician, whose name is Hot Wing, whose upper leg is exposed. There's so many issues and problems. And then I have a bunch of jokes I can make, but then I have like a bunch of talking points I could make that were very serious. Just let it be known, it is an utter complete clusterfuck. But at the same time, I like that there's a black character in this show that's full of fucking white people.
Right. But yeah, like it reminds me of Firebrand from Marvel 70s, where it's like, here's a black character, but he's angry, and so he has fire powers. And it's like, okay, and I thought that's where we were going with this. And it's like, okay, the fact is Hot Wing has nothing to do with his actual power set. He's just God, as far as I can tell. He can do anything. He can do anything he wants to. And so
I do like your analogy though, Eddie, that like God is black, so I would fully support that.
Sure. I mean, just nothing in this show contradicts that. Yeah. God rocks around in gold cybernetics because why the fuck not?
Well, Eddie, I have to ask you, why does God need a starship?
Why does God need a starship?
I don't know. Kirk will tell me one day. And the thing is, though, is that right now the powers appear almost to be primarily telekinetic in nature.
Right. Again,
like he's
that changes.
Opening, closing doors. I know when he shoots like the wrist, like the people's cuffs, and they kind of disappear. That could be telekinesis pulling them apart. So right now you could put it all under very powerful telekinetic.
Yeah, and
Which
admittedly, when I was watching the show, I watched this episode. Just in this episode, I was like, you know what? Halloween's actually pretty cool. If it's just because the magician thing is just kind of it's played almost like it's a joke. It's if you were just a psychic squad leader and you go, oh yeah, my family has a magician in the family, and that's kind of like a self-deprecating gag about the fact that you have psychic fucking powers. That would actually be interesting and cool, right? And so like, but the problem is that, but I was also going, but this is also a setting where your main villain becomes powered up by the light of a very specific star at a very specific moment. So magic is clearly on the table in some way, shape, or form. So how do you solve this? And the answer is no, it's actually just really magic. Which is the
and
boring
I
answer.
would be on board for the psychic piece because we've already established in the first episode that the twins are empathic
Right,
with
exactly.
each other.
Psychic powers would have been fine. They're empathic, she's telekinetic, and Quicksilver is boring, right?
But all right, that place is aside. This is what I wanted to bring up, Eddie. How long does it take to get from Earth to Limbo?
Plot.
Because
Right.
the Silverhawks are captured this episode, and Hot Wing is in Earth, and then suddenly at Hawkhaven, to go out on the mission to ride with Zeke and Seymour. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? Okay, we'll get to that in a second. So I have to assume that the use of galaxy is that weird 70s, 80s version of we don't actually know what the word galaxy means, right? Which I would be more suggestive and supportive of if it weren't for the fact that literally every fucking episode ends with science facts that tell you these things. So it has to go. No, the Limbo galaxy has to literally be a different galaxy. So why is it that you can move from Earth to Limbo relatively fast, but you have to literally drive down the street to get to Monstar's base? You know what I mean?
Oh God. Okay. Can people breathe in space? They've got the
Yes,
cool
apparently.
face mask that comes down, and sometimes they use them, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they use them when they're in a vehicle. Sometimes they just use them when they're in space, but it's not consistent. So that makes me think you can always breathe in space. And why do you need a face mask?
So I was more on board with this until I started watching episodes on my own, and I got angrier. So one of the episodes we skipped, which is episode 2, which is the part where the Silverhawks. Because remember, what we covered in the first episode is that the Silverhawks never actually meet the mob in the pilot episode. You know, the
Nope.
whole thing spent you so much time explaining what the whole point of the show is. Silverhawks never actually meet the mob in the first episode. They do it in episode 2. In episode 2, there is an entire plot point, Chris, where Steel Will gets captured, and then Monstar jettisons him into space, and the Silverhawks go, "We have to capture him before he stops breathing." And it's like, why you motherfuckers can breathe in space? Why is this now a problem? It is straight up, the Autobots can fly except when they can't bullshit.
Because I also vaguely remember there are times they would drop the Silverhawks and you think they were going to die because they couldn't fly, but they're flying all the time in here, and sometimes they're
Right.
sort of flying, gliding, not flying. Okay,
Right.
I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
The rule, though, between the magic stuff and this stuff, it's clear that like the rules are just purely generated by whatever the plot requires.
My last point for here, before I move on, is they can move their fucking planet with blasters to make the moon starlight shine on. They can move the planet, Eddie. They go. Bloop.
And like I almost want to enjoy it, right? Because the increasingly contrived ways they get Monstar under the Moonstar, which is really hard to say out loud, I realize, is almost funny. But the problem is that there's so much in the show's inconsistent that I can't assume it's an actual deliberate gag, right? It almost feels like it's the show's going, okay, let's make this increasingly contrived how we get to the Monstar transmission scene that happens every episode. And there's a relatively good version of that in Sneak Attack that we'll get to. But the problem is so much of the rest of the show is also not interested in consistency that like it's the okay, I actually don't know if you're just bad at this. I don't know.
All right. Anything else before we move on to Sneak Attack Part 1?
Yeah, let's move on to Sneak Attack.
Commander Stargazer sends Hot Wing and Quicksilver on a dangerous mission on Brimstar with a spray can of invisibility to arrest Monstar for his crimes against the Limbo's people. The duo stake out Monstar, awaiting the moment to strike, while Stargazer twists Seymour's arm to be their mission transport. You know what I mean? Quicksilver distracts Mumbo Jumbo with the use of his arm laser, and they escape. And they put Monstar into the back of the cab. Sky Shadow attacks the space cab, forcing Hot Wing to use his magic to best the beast. But the baddies recruit nameless mooks to attack the Silverhawks again. Seymour uses his cab's defenses against most of the unnamed mooks, but the cabbie barely avoids crashing. And then the cops put Moonstar away. Yeah! End of Part 1, Sneak Attack. Pew, pew, pew! Can of invisible spray.
And now it's like, if the show is trying to be silly, this would have been an amazing episode. But it's like, it doesn't help the fact that Seymour is goddamn annoying.
You know what I
cabbie.
mean?
It's one thing to have a catchphrase, but every goddamn sentence, you know what I mean? It's like, shut up, Seymour. Zeke the Beak is not much better.
Well, Zeke the Beak has to hear him say it all the time. It is so bad. And I hate him, but at the same time, I love the world building in this series with the constant recurring characters and the beats they redo. Some of them are overdone, but it is showing you that someone has thought through an entire universe to populate it. That's
right.
fast.
Right. As frustrating as Seymour is, and if I go back to if this was meant to be funny, it would be how I have much better time with this. Is that it is genuinely fun to go. We have to shove the mob boss into the back of a cab and escape. Is actually an interesting concept, right? It does feel very noir of like the crap. We need to grab a cab real quick to get away from the mobsters. Oh, of course, it's this hack character, the hack driver that we always see in these kinds of novels or movies or whatever. And so we have to drive with this character around and leads to funny moments, but also tense moments. Like on paper, this all makes sense. It's just Seymour's a little too annoying, arguably a lot too annoying. Also, watching between this episode and last episode, Hot Wing's voice acting goes way in a fucking toilet.
And for the Seymour bit, though, it is even seated way back in like episode when Hot Wing first shows up, is that he delivers people from like Brimstar to wherever. So him being there does not stand out, which is another reason why they use his cab to go there to pick up Monstar. So it's beautiful. Like that is world building and thought out that this person would be an intermediary. And to see Stargazer have to twist his arm because that then breaks the fact that Seymour has been a neutral-ish party this whole time.
Right. And to your world building part, it's like, yes, they randomly introduces 3 new mobsters here, but of course the mob boss has other people that he hires behind his usual goons. There's a natural extension of that. And also all of them at least are very visually interesting. And in the short space we see them, they have bickering and personality. So like, even though they're nameless goons, they're not faceless. They all are intriguing characters visually. So going back to the aesthetics, like the aesthetics sell that plot point way more than the script writing does.
Oh, so many things. All right. I originally was talking about Hot Wings magic being telekinesis. That's why I was putting my thing.
Right.
It is now just magic for the sake of being magic.
Yep. It is just straight up fucking magic.
And I guess I'm okay with that because if you can make a can that makes you invisible for, we'll say 5-10 minutes, what isn't magic at this point?
And again, like the whole concept is like, we're episode 52. We're you could feel the writers going, I don't know, we're out of ideas, man. Because like Stargazer's like, all right, I know for the last 51 episodes, we've been trying to arrest this guy, but now I have invisibility spray. So we're all in. We're this is it. this is the final move because I have invisibility spray that lasts for a few minutes.
I just don't. It's okay. My last thing, then we could go to wrap this whole thing up. So Eddie, Hot Wing and Quicksilver, they've arrested Monstar, they put him away, and they've been dropped back off at Hawkhaven. And they put on jumpsuits. Eddie, why are they wearing jumpsuits? Are they naked in space, but they wear their clothes at home?
They get cold. Because space is not cold.
What the actual fuck? I'm going to move on to part 2 unless you have something else. Because I just wanted to ask about those fucking jumpsuits.
No.
All right. We open on Monstar in his cell, looking into space, shaking his tiny fist and swearing revenge. Then the twins, working on a prototype weapon, and the kid watching before Stargazer assigns Stillwell and the kid to monitor duty. Hardware captures the Moonstar's rays in a special box and gets himself arrested, and that Monstar uses to become Monstar to escape. Monstar wastes no time and attacks Seymour and Zeke first. You know what I mean? The trio head to Hawkhaven, who are warned moments before the attack by Mayday. It's literal seconds. The planet Wrecker wreaks havoc on the base, but they can't attack back without risking hitting Seymour and Zeke the Beak. You know what I mean? But Stillwell and the kid use their new weapons. Oh God, so irritating. Does Stillwell's new weapon superheats the giant Shoggoth, and Monstar escapes swearing revenge, but leaves a hostage behind.
So something we didn't talk about last 2 episodes is that Rankin Bass cartoons in this era have an interesting quirk in that the first 30 seconds are telling you the plot of the show you're gonna see.
I hate it.
With the exception of this episode, which is a recap of the previous episode. Anime also tends to do this a lot, and every time I hate it too. It's like, you just told me the thing I want to watch. I want to watch it. I don't want you to tell me the thing I'm going to watch. Just let me watch it.
So but it wasn't just cartoons back then. They did it for most of the 80 shows. Like Remington Steele did it, I think. Scarecrow and Mrs. Kane did it.
Oh, really?
I even think, I can't remember if Moonlight did it or not, but I know that Remington Steele did, and I'm pretty sure about Scarecrow and Mrs. Kane.
I know that some shows would just show you like clips out of context, which didn't bother me as much, right? Because then you have the chance of like, oh, how did they get in that situation? I'm curious to know more. But no, this is narrator is telling you, here's the plot of the show you're going to watch, and it's just like, let me just watch it. So I ended up skipping actually most of those. So I didn't realize this was a recap the first time, and then I had to, much like you were saying last episode, I had trouble watching these all in order, so I had to watch it through. It's a few days, so I restarted, and I was like, oh, well, this is weird recap. I thought it was going to tell me the episode. So anyway, don't like it.
Oh, Eddie, the fact that Hardware puts Moonstar Light into a box, that would change the entire scope of the show going forward. There's no reason for Monstar not to be Monstar all the time.
Right. And it's like, the thing is, like, if this wasn't episode 53, I would be like, cool, now he has, hey, yes, man, go get me another box of light. Yes, boss. And he goes off and comes back with a box of light. It's like, he can carry it with him and transform whatever. It's like, that's actually an interesting evolution of technology, but I don't believe the show is going to be interested in exploring now. I think this is just a one-time thing. But even then, like, the actual bit of Hardware invents a technological box to trap magic.
Yeah.
Then gets himself arrested so that he can break Monstar out. Is like, that's actually a clever concept. And I also really like the idea that Monstar is like, I need to get revenge. But on the Silverhawks, that motherfucking cab driver, I'm going to murder him. And it's like, you know what? Mood, Monstar. I'm with you on this.
It's all right. So they go through all that trouble. And we haven't talked about Molecular, who can change into other people. There's a whole bunch of people we haven't talked about. And I've avoided making a Peter Lorre joke associated with Yes Man. I think I've grown up as an adult.
You have.
But
yes, you have, Grace.
oh god, the fact that we get to see the guards again in episode 53 that we saw in episode 1. I love it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
world building, little bits and pieces, and they've learned like 2% more than they knew before.
right. They're still really bad at their jobs, but they're slightly less bad at their jobs. It's like, no, you fooled us last time. We're not gonna let you go through the windows, though, but we'll let you this weird box be brought into you, no problem. It's like, God damn it, you're the worst.
Oh, what were the like the steamer and what was the other gun? The screamer. Eddie, there are lips on the screamer. Why does
Yeah,
Steel Will put lips on a gun?
because Steel Will, he has his own private moments, and he's gonna respect them.
I'm just asking these. Oh, it's short though. I'm ready to wrap up Silverhawks. We've come a long way. There's some good. There's some bad. What are your final thoughts on Silverhawks? I'm bringing us to this point now because I'm done with this.
Fair enough. I'm so conflicted because, like, as much we gave the show a lot of stick, and all of it is deserved, and yet I still kind of love it. Because the aesthetics do so much to cover so many of the show's sins. Um, Most of the villains voice acting, most of the mob voice acting is really, 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 really fun. Um, some of the Silverhawk voice acting is pretty good too. We both said we both love Bluegrass, for example. Um, and it's weird because Bluegrass actually sounds a bit different from all of the other Silverhawks, right? He has a very kind of radio announcer voice, and so it's jarring, but you get sucked in when Bluegrass is talking. It's like you pay attention. It's like, oh, it's Bluegrass talking, you know. Um, and visually, the cartoon is gorgeously made for the time period. There are very few mistakes that I could see. I'm sure if I carefully analyzed, I'd find some, but like just on a casual watch, I didn't really see any problems with it. So it's a pretty show that does a lot really well, and so I can ignore shit like everything is a limbo minute or a limbo mile or a limbo this or a limbo that. It's like just change it to space. We know what you're trying to do here. We everything is a limbo fucking thing, you know. But and it's a shame that some of my favorite baddies we didn't really talk about, like the guy who runs the casino, or the fact that there's an entire planet that's a bank, and there's a guy who runs the entire bank planet who looks like he's dripping in gold. You know, it's like there's just so the characters are visually interesting. They usually have a good personality, and so it can cover a lot of it. But when you actually are analyzing it, like we do with the show breaks down so fast. It's
100%.
frustrating because it's like I love this show, but I would sit down and watch GoBots before I would watch another long run of this show, and I think it says something.
Ah, so I'm I'm in a similar boat as you, but not quite the same one. Um, I brought it up at the start of the show. The animation here still stands up. It's a little dated, but it is so solid that I would watch another couple episodes of this before I watched more of GoBots. Because a lot like when you read a comic, the art is essential for a comic. No matter
Yep.
how great the story is, if the art isn't striking for you, you get lost trying to read the words.
Yes.
And this is aesthetic, pulls me in enough that I can overlook some of the bad voice acting and I can overlook some of the bad plot beats. I'll note them. And I don't even know how much they tried to be inclusive other than making a token character, but there are some other characters that'll pop up and they're building the world. And building the world is something I'll always want to support and see more of.
Yeah.
And so I would watch more Silverhawks before I watch GoBots, if you know what I mean.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I will say, like I said, I watched maybe 7 or 8 more episodes than the ones we watched. I mean, I'm with you. Like the instinct, oh, just keep watching this for a while, and it got me for a while. Don't get me wrong. Um, but you know what I mean? It's just you know what I mean. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? There are certain bits that it doesn't binge well. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Whereas I think I could probably watch a couple of episodes of GoBots and go, you know, that was fun. Right? It just kind of washes over you. Yeah, I mean, because it doesn't have quite the same charm as Silverhawks, but also doesn't have the flaws, and so it kinda just nice, solid, comfortable television watching, whereas Silverhawks is more of the, "That's really cool. That's really bad." You know? It's that emotional roller
Well,
coaster all the way through. Mhm.
it goes back to the core essential thing we say about anything. It needs watchability, and GoBots has watchability.
Yeah. Silverhawks
Silverhawks,
most of the time does.
yeah. And the reason that I would give that extra pass is because I've said to start, I love Rankin and Bass. So that's why I'd give it extra time to keep me hooked. But Eddie, if people are done with this Silverhawks nonsense and they don't want to talk about Tiger Sharks, what are we doing next?
Well, there's only one thing left to talk about, which is the other Rankin Bass cartoon, Thundercats. Um, so if you like fantasy, buckle up because we got more of it for you. We're going to cover the two-part pilot, episode 1, Exodus, episode 2, Unholy Alliance, and then also in season 1, we're going to do episode 11, The Ghost Warrior, and episode 58, The Mountain. And Snarf is in a lot of this, I understand. So sorry
Son
about
of
that.
a bitch.
Apologize ahead of time. um, so
Eddie,
we're.
people
I was
if
going to ask
people
you
want to
where
get
they
in
would
touch
find you
with
online.
you,
So you can find with me first. Fine.
yes.
I see.
If people want to get in touch with you online, support you, how can they give you money and give you their attention and then quiz you about science facts, much how Bluegrass did the kid?
I kind of actually want to run a quiz online now about that. It's like, just do the Bluegrass quiz, but like through Blue Sky or something, or on the Discord. That bet you be fun. But there's 2 places you can find me: pugsteady.com on Blue Sky, or you can find me on the Darker Hue Discord. And yeah, let's ask me science questions on the Discord. We'll see how that goes. How about you?
If you're looking for me, you can find me on the Darker Who Discord now, potentially asking Eddie science questions just to embarrass him on the Discord. Or you can come to my website, darkwhostudios.com, or better yet, you can go to Harlem Bounding, which is my Patreon, sign up, and I give you cool RPG stuff when I'm not podcasting with Eddie, which seems to be all the time now. We're going to add
Does seem like
another
it's a
2
lot.
days of podcasting in to make 4 new shows.
Oh my god, so much. And one of them's gonna be just about all the science facts in Silverhawks.
Ooh, it's going to be comparing Silverhawks facts versus James Bond facts, and we'll see which one is right more
Which
often than
science
not.
is worse? When that happens, we'll let you know. But until then, we'll talk to you next time with Thundercats.